about it.
God is frowning upon us.
God looks upon us every day.
In shame. Every day we grow further from God.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's the thing. So yeah, I think talking about like being susceptible to like creative complacency.
Yeah.
And like becoming an adult and like, yeah, I think we should just jump in if you're ready. Yeah, ladies and gents.
Steve.
Ladies and gents, welcome back to Articulate with Steve McJones. Today we got one Mr. Logan Marshall. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, back on. I forgot you were in probably era 1.
You had the blue
twice.
I might have been. Yeah, because I think we did one. Maybe did one in Athens, and then we did one at your apartment. I don't remember where that was, but you lived in an apartment in Cincinnati at one point, didn't you?
Oh, we did another one at the apartment. Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah,
if we did two, if we did two, I think that was where we did
it was at that place.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do remember doing the one though in Athens. Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, I wanted to. I think it's a good topic to get into because you are on the precipice of becoming an elderly, boring old man.
Yeah,
is what it sounds
very
like.
close. According to some, yeah.
But Logan and I met when I was in high school, and I joined film club. You were the head of film club, actually.
Yeah.
Seems like
that's wild. I wouldn't even. Good memory. Yeah. I was like, how did we meet? That's true. Yeah.
Logan also has a shit memory.
Yeah, it's concerning. I might not even remember recording this in about 48 hours.
Yeah. But basically, I mean, we met in a creative element. In my opinion, it was a thing that we even used to do like improv sometimes during film club. I don't know if you remember that at all.
A little bit. I feel like
it's like some fun acting exercises, shit like that.
Yeah.
But we would watch movies and then analyze and break them down, talk about them.
Yeah.
We watched that Andrew Garfield short film by Spike Jonze that I really like. Jones.
Yeah. What was that? It's like, or is that where they all have the computer heads?
Yeah, the computer heads.
That's right. That's a great
short film. Yeah. I forgot.
Sad.
It's sad.
It's sad.
But it was a very we were all in high school, so it was like when we were learning to build. I mean, unfortunately for me, my creative outlet was Twitter, and we saw how that turned out. But
I was just telling Joy about that. She's like, "He did what?" It's like, I was like, I don't remember the exact tweet, but it was.
He did what in the cup?
He was a terrorist. He's a domestic terrorist,
basically.
Yeah.
But it was the start for me, honestly, for appreciating, like, I had always watched TV shows and movies, and that club was something I was forced into because I got caught doing drugs, and my dad was like, you need to join a club at school.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Oh,
but,
there you go.
But it was the start for me for, like, instead of, like, mindlessly consuming, which I was basically doing before, it started allowing me to take notice of the depth that people would put into film and TV, like the amount of work that it actually takes to get into it. And now, I mean, my journey has taken me to a place, doing a short film where I've actually been able to see, break down all the work that goes into it. But
that's awesome.
That's obviously more specific. I wanted to talk about creative. I don't know. I guess what I wanted to get onto is especially where I feel like I am in life, where, I do have an easy 9-to-5 job, which is great, but I do feel like it's also creatively stifling me in some ways. Mm-hmm. And, one of my biggest concerns, like, you're getting married and you have a 9-to-5 job. And it's like, if you told me when I was 16 that, by the time I was 30, I would have a house and, be married and have a 9-to-5 job. Even if you told me after that I, still did like creative stuff, to me, it would still seem like a loss, you know what I mean? Like I lost.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I think that's looking at it through a very selfish lens, which I guess is inherently what it has to be. Like I guess I would say there's people out there. Christopher Nolan has a wife and kids, and all these people. So
true.
To me, like, some of the most fulfilling parts of life. I guess I got tired. You get tired not everybody, but I got tired of like living just for myself. Like, it was like sharing in something. Now you have to be lucky enough to obviously meet somebody that you feel like is that's like an obvious big first step that you just can't force. But like, no, I mean, definitely, like, I understand that totally, because like, I mean, also my 9-to-5 is in video, so it's different. It's not like, I mean, for me, and it's like the people are great there, and it's not like there's no such thing as really like a 9-to-5 film job. Like, that doesn't really, that industry doesn't exist in that way unless you're like an assistant editor and you're working like 12-hour shifts every day for 6 hours a week, and just like like clogging in footage, like is labeling, and you work your way up the ladder. But I realized like, I had an internship out in LA with the Television Academy, like the Emmy. It was like through the Emmy people, right when I came out of college, when that's right when COVID hit. And that got canceled, and so that gave me a lot of time. Well, I didn't get canceled technically. Like I had an internship, but it like wasn't like I was going to be in LA working for a company like doing editing, or like assistant editing or learning the ropes of or however that worked because I had a lot of interest in post production. Still do, but like that was like the main focus.
I mean, that's what you went to college for too, right?
Yeah, film school. I'd made films, but also like I focused at the tail end more on post production, like editing, coloring, audio, all that stuff. So. One thing, obviously, COVID hit, so I can't go out there. And then, like, I had concerns about going out to LA in general, just the culture, the types of people that you meet out there. It's a very dog-eat-dog world. Like, not everybody's like that, but it's just, like, I guess I valued relationships and friendships more. I realized more than, like, my sort of, like, career aspirations, like, in certain ways. And I also realized that I could still, if I really wanted to make a short film where I'm at right now, I have the energy, time, and, like, not money. Like, I mean, I could fund, like, money's not the right way of putting it, like the resources and the connections to like do that if I still wanted to. So I guess I had time to reflect and like realize like I can still put a roof over my head and basically like have a really intimate relationship with somebody, but also and like build a life in that way that's like a lot more that's like different than I ever expected. But also like if and when I want that outlet, like I could still write that film, get a crew together as you did in Philly,
right?
And basically like But obviously, when you're working,
like a big thing for you, like to realize I mean, that's a big change in value. You know what I mean? To have that because you did short films all throughout high school, and again, that was your main thing in college. So it's like that was obviously probably the top of your mind, like where you were going direction wise. You were on a path towards like doing the career thing, and it must have been a big like. Okay, this is becoming more important to me, but it's hard to just like admit that. You know what I mean?
No, I think it was definitely like growing. It was not like super linear. Like I graduated from OU. Like, I mean, you know this, but just like for some context, like from Cincinnati, graduated from OU, was going to go out to LA. COVID hits, moved back to Cincinnati for a couple months because like you couldn't do anything, and then move up to Akron just because I'm like, look, I'm not going anywhere right now. Like especially LA, it's like you can't even fucking go like to the really can't go anywhere. So like I'm not moving out there, and I'm not going to spend a bunch of money to go live in my my little tiny cube, but like 10 by 10 foot a studio apartment out there. But yeah, I think it's just something that developed slowly. Like I started working for a video company up in Akron who would do like commercial work, so like working with different clients like from all kind of walks of life. Like some of them are nonprofits, some of them are for-profit, some of them are colleges, just doing all kinds of videos. And I realized like, and I even realized this in college, like it's not enough just to have like be doing something creative. You have to be doing it with the people that you like and that people and I like the people at this job. But I realized that and I realized this in school too, like some of the projects I worked on, I always actually loved a lot of my cohorts in film school, but like it wasn't just enough for me. I didn't have enough like I guess selfish motivation. I don't mean that in like a negative way, selfish, just for
self-fulfilling.
Just like self-centered motivation to like just work with people I don't like, but at least I'm editing. Like, like you have to do that sometimes. Like, again, that's a choice. But I realized that like what gave me a lot more joy and fulfillment and like helped me deal with certain problems I had in other realms was like having like basically strong like pillars of people I could lean on or like relationships I could lean on or like, and that's why in high school, for example, like loved making, and I just told Joey the other day, like, if you're ever back, like we're making like another film, just so you like, and he's like, yeah. I was like, yeah. So like, and I think for me, like it's a lot of that. And now I do have to be careful because, and I'm sure we can get into this, but like it is easy to just be like checking the boxes, so to speak, and just be like, okay, I'm tired. I'm just gonna go home and like just relax, and I'm gonna go. See,
that's my biggest thing is like you keep saying, I could, rats. And it's like I could make this short film if I wanted to. You have the means, and I understand like that's how it is, but when or like
why have I
are you going to? Why have you waited? You know what I mean? It's like that's what, and I'm not like I'm not shooting those directly at you, but it's the same way how I feel about like when I'm sitting around. It's like, well, I could write a script right now. And I have like, and I'd thought that before, and then it's like, why I just never did.
That's you can definitely like get like you can kind of say, well, if forever. But I guess to me, I'm fulfilled enough in other ways that I don't feel the need to like force it, which is a unique feeling. So it's like I don't know if I want to, and again, I'd like to have, I love collaborating. So like to me, I've never been as into the script writing side as like you or Joey, for example, were.
Sure.
Like I like it. Like in college, I had to write my own stuff a couple times. So like that was part of the curriculum.
Right.
And like, I think I was like decent enough at it. Like it wasn't that like, I don't think I can't do it. And I do have little ideas I still write down on my phone, but no, that's
Nice.
there is a good question of like, that's a valid question. Like, why haven't you made something? And I think a lot of it's just been like there's different answers for different times. Like I could have been going through like a mental health thing. I could have been going through like I could have been going through like just dealing with something else, or I could have just
like
been
a
being
job
lazy.
thing or like
And to me, I definitely what I'd say is like I don't think it's ever been my job that's ever stopped me from doing that.
Okay.
And so that's not, to me, that's not the problem. Like you know what I mean? That's not like the main thing. That's now that depends on. To me right now, I actually feel like the job I'm doing for Xavier, working in video every single day, is keeping me sharper than I've ever been. Technically,
Really?
Yeah, 100%. Technically and creatively, because like I have to do different types of videos, and some might be more boring, and some might be more exciting.
So,
but I have to work with a bunch of
of
different people.
What do you do?
So right now, like I work at I don't know if I've even talked to you personally about that. I can't remember, but like so I work at Xavier, so local university. People from Cincinnati would know it probably. I would think from basketball, like they're a very big basketball program. Maybe people would know it. Connect with them kind of unexpectedly, but got there, loved the people. But basically, we're the marketing department, like at large for the university, and they are a Jesuit university, which is a offshoot of a Catholic university. But Jesuits are a very interesting, specific like subset of Catholics. But so they have a very strong mission identity, which is like. Honestly aligns with a lot of my values. So like that was really good.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. Very service oriented, very into education and like reflection. Like, so like on your own, like what's going on in your shit. Like, you know, so, but that's like the long short of it. But like what I do depends, like literally something I like about it is every week is different. Like I could be working on like a more standard sort of promotional video for like something like a master's program in the business school, which is like, but it still keeps me sharp in lighting and audio and making these quality things, which would, but I would think as a form though, that's a little bit more like, you would say a little bit more of a stale video, like versus like, which I don't know, like,
but like
you can make anything
is what is
interesting.
keeping you technically sharp is what you're saying.
Yeah. And like, just the idea, like, okay, like, not a lot of people know how to light, like, okay, now you have this room. How do you work with this? How do you solve this problem? Like little problems of it, not little fires. That makes it sound like it's a problem. Like little fires everywhere, but like little things.
Little problems.
You're challenging. You're like growing, and then I could do something more fun where like I'm at a crosstown shootout game, like UC Xavier, in the middle of like just the most crazy ass sports environment I've ever been in, like getting like cool ass B-roll and like doing stuff like that.
Yeah, you guys used to do that for the Lebanon football.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, it's funny actually. Like when I was just doing that recently, it was like, oh, this is like flashing me back, you know. Yeah. So and like I get a lot of like fulfillment out of that because it's like on like you're like flying by the seat of your pants, like you're like really rolling the moment. You're having to adjust all these like, you know, you're just like. So I guess that technical side, like, and it's just like I've been lucky enough to work with people that have been very kind and very just like. I know people that like are good people, which matters to me, because I don't really want to deal with assholes. So like, it's like, that is like,
I think that's almost like part of the biggest like conflict that we're talking about. It's like, do I want to suffer for the sake of my like creative vision or whatever, or do I want to settle, you know, for lack of a better term, do I want to settle to work with good people and be around people that I enjoy more often? You know what I mean?
But that's even something you have to get lucky at too. Like you have to, it's almost something you can't choose. Like, but yeah, like you have to get lucky to meet those people. Like I got lucky. Like whereas like there's my cat. Here he comes.
He's creeping.
Yeah, he's creeping. But no, I do think like I've been lucky in that way. Whereas like certain jobs, like I've not always been lucky. But like I guess for me, like I also have other creative outlets. Like I might be doing paint. Like
before you move on to other creative outlets, how does this job, like stimulate? Because you said it does stimulate you creatively.
Oh, yeah, because it challenges me every day. Like, I'm having to think of a different way to tell a different story. Like, I just told a story about this girl who, like, went through, like, 10 different heart surgeries, almost died, and, like, had to, like... Oh, wow. So there's, like, all this... I'm interviewing her and her mom, this really emotionally heavy story, and I'm, like, an intimate setting, and the interviewing for that process, and then editing and making that, and, like, getting her... And it relates, I won't give you all the details, but it relates back into Xavier and all that stuff. Sure. And, like... So, like, literal life and death stories.
Xavier right now. No,
yeah. It's like, I'm like, hey, go to Xavier. No,
but literal life and death stuff, that's crazy. Like, I didn't even think about that. Like, because working in a corporate environment, I have looked at, they have like, even Vanguard has like a production crew that they, interview, and they have like, people on CNN down there or whatever, like live
You work at
streaming.
Vanguard?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like Vanguard, like the stock institution?
Yeah, like the financial company.
Yeah, financial company.
Yeah, but they have that, but it does seem like very dry.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I was thinking about like potentially moving into that, like you said, for the technical aspects of it, but I just never really considered that there would be, again, even for like a creative or like an emotional narrative that they would want to try to tell with the video production. But obviously, I mean, they could have the same story at Vanguard, like somebody that had cancer, and
yeah,
I don't know how the company.
I think it's
a little different.
We're a little bit more. I'm a little bit more advantaged being at like a place where like you find yourself and like you can grow into like obviously the college experience and all that stuff. Like
that's fair.
It lends itself to more like in depth like human stories, like which is ultimately like what I give a shit about. Like so it's like but again, yeah, I wouldn't say like, oh yeah, every day is like like some. I don't know, crazy day, like, at the end. No, it's not. Right. But there are other benefits, like, which I know people like, I mean, people can judge and be like, oh, that's boring adult stuff. But like, man, like when you pull yourself up and you do this shit yourself, like there's other benefits, like to like even just work-life balance that it's really nice for me. Like,
right.
And like, again, when I have like a life I'm building outside of my career, like when that shit matters just as much to me, if not more, than like that stuff, that stuff like does like that stuff does matter. Like I'm not gonna get into specifics like, oh, my benefits package or something like that. It's not just that, it's everything. It's the people, it's everything. I don't know if I'll be here in 2 years. I have no idea. I'm not shutting that door, but like
sure.
it doesn't limit me. Like what I was saying earlier is like it doesn't drain me in the way that like I think some 9-to-5s can, to where I'm like, I just have no creative energy left, which is a real thing. So I'm able to put a roof over my head, be independent, but also like have enough energy to where like if I want to like go home and paint or do something else or make a short film, like I can still do those things. And I think that's like that's
one of the biggest perks.
Yeah, but I think like that's why I think I was so like I know not to turn it on to you, but I think I was so like impressed by like what you did, just because I was like, that's like, it's not easy. I mean, I'm sure as you found out, and now you're like about to edit your film, but like that takes a lot of like dedication and you really have to be in love with it, like obviously too, which is something you can't force, but like you have to be like, oh yeah, this is like, but that's great. Like, I mean, that's why I was like, dude, that's amazing. Like, regardless of how like you feel like this, let's say in 10 months, you're like, all right, I edited the film. It's not like what I wanted it to be. Let's say it even turns out that way. It doesn't matter to me, because like now obviously you want to keep building and get better, but like the fact that you put all that like that effort and energy into writing this thing, you were like not shy, you reached out to people, you got connections going, like that's like 90% of the battle, I feel like. You know what I mean? Well, I mean, as far as at least getting something made, yes, 100%.
Sure.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Which is what one part that I've come to like learn to really appreciate is just production. Yeah. Like I got so lucky with, I had an actress that came on and just really took the reins on producing and reached out to a lot of people, and I was like, all right, well,
that helps.
Yeah, it helps quite a bit.
Thank you very much.
She like made a schedule and everything, call sheet, and like did that whole
production. Wow, that's like, was she the assistant? Was she like
she was the main producer?
Yes, that's really
main producer. Nice. We were just co-producers.
No, that's huge.
But you're also moving towards a point in your life where you're about to become, he's engaged and he's about to be married, right? And which again, for me, like you said, it's like you're saying with your job now that it allows you to be independent, and you're moving towards this thing of codependency, you know what I mean? And again, that's not a terrible thing. I love love. I love marriage. You know what I mean? That's like an arc, that I would respect. Yeah. But again, it in a way, it seems to me these are almost obstacles to. They seem to me like obstacles to a creative vision. You know what I mean?
I think that's totally wrong.
Really? Well,
yeah, entirely. Because I think you say, first of all, it's not codependency. You grow through each other. It's not dependency as in like if she left for 2 weeks, I couldn't handle myself, or like be independent or do my own thing, or that we can't come home and be like, hey, she's writing a novel and she's on her 5th draft. So like that's
you're in a healthy relationship.
Well, right. Yeah, that's a key too. Like that's like a whole other thing. But like, yeah, like I don't know. I just don't. I believe more in sacrifice as I get older too, and like I think like there's these certain values that when you're younger, I think are good to have, like in certain ways of like. And I'm very young still, but like the idea that like it's just a selfish time in a lot of people's lives. Like I need to do what's best for me, which I don't even know if we can even know what that is half the time. But like, I think a lot of people think like, well, the only way I'm going to be, I just think what happens if what if this whole narrative you're telling yourself is wrong? You get to the end of the road. You've been selfish.
So
you've done all these
like
things.
An expectations that you're setting for yourself that you might not necessarily meet. And what if you don't meet that expectation?
And what if you do meet that expectation, but then you're still empty inside? Seriously.
Yeah.
What happens then?
No,
Seriously.
that's true.
Because a lot of people have, and they go, oh shit, I realize I've gotten everything I want from a career, but I have nobody who I trust, nobody who I love, or like something like that. Like, not saying that's like literally, it's not
but
black
that's
and
like
white.
the biggest generalization.
To make a generalization of like, if you want to go like, oh, being married is stunning your creativity, and like go that far to that direction, which I'm not saying you're saying is always the case.
Exactly.
But if you want to go that side, I think I would say the other side is like, I also just don't think that's true, because I think there's so many people who like literal like actors of our time, directors of our time, writers of our time, artists of our time who have very deep, I think their art itself is informed by the depth of their relationships. That is like,
Actually,
you can
that
only
makes sense. I can feel that.
Yeah, so like your
Because-
muse in a sense.
Well,
like,
yeah, because like within, like a muse. Because
Yeah.
like within acting, like I took an
Yeah.
acting class for like 8 months, and there were some scenes that I had to like, there was like a breakup scene or something, and I was really only able to access that because I felt
Yeah.
so much for this one person, and I went through an actual,
Yeah.
relationship where I was in love, and then it like broke me, right? And so I was able to channel that.
Yeah.
And then I like talk to people, and they're like, "Wow, like I've never been able to reach that far in."
Yeah.
Because like they haven't experienced that before. So I guess that makes sense.
I think now obviously you can't like just intentionally experience like you're gonna experience life in the way
can't
you do.
intentionally experience
Well, you can't like
life.
intentionally be like, all right,
No,
I'm gonna
I get it.
I'm gonna like break up with this girl. Like I'm gonna like make sure I check that box, check that. But like like obviously I definitely think like for being an actor, which I would never be able to do. Like I feel like you have to have so much like almost interpersonal like. I don't want to
Sensitivity
romanticize
almost.
drama, like sensitivity for
Sensitivity.
sure. Like definitely, you have to be caring towards others, or like, and you have to be very raw, open soul, because like otherwise, you're just gonna totally be faking it. And like that's not that you can't ever like, I don't know, like I'm not, because obviously you're playing a character, like somebody doesn't have to be their literal character to play them, but they have to have something that's like analogous in their life and their own emotional like sphere that they can like relate to, like you're saying, that's like then allows that performance to be better. Because otherwise, if you just live in like this now again, maybe if you live on your own and you end up playing a really lonely character, that can be a really interesting connection too.
Yeah.
Where, like,
Well, and
maybe
so that's
someone
what,
like
like,
me wouldn't have as much of
A question that I have for you that as much as I'm asking you, I'm asking me is like,
Yeah,
why do
yeah.
you think that it's a stigma for people that have a 9 to 5 and get married to be creatively stifled? You know what I mean? Would you agree that is like a
I guess I've
know.
heard that. I mean, I guess I guess it doesn't fit this sort of like romantic, I would say, immature
Artist.
vision of an artist. Yeah, like I would say like the idea of like,
sure.
I mean, because I think like you're like, oh, the artist is a sufferer who's just like on his own, like shady dark alleys and just like smoking the cigarette outside the bar, like like you can do those things for sure. And I think those experiences actually can be super valuable too. So it's not like what I'm doing is right and what you're doing is wrong. But I think if somebody you really loved or fell in love with crossed your path, it wouldn't be a choice to you anymore.
Right.
And that's like a big thing. Like I think you would be, but I also think if that person truly loved you, then they would respect the space you need to like do creative acts. Like if you want to do something creative. So, and that obviously goes in, like you joked earlier, like a healthy relationship. Like, yes, like obviously I think there's a lot of people also have a platonic form of what a relationship is, whether because they're basing it off what they saw of their parents or something that maybe wasn't the healthiest relationship. That then they think, well, marriage is just when you settle down and you lose your soul. Like, and it's like, yeah, I mean that if that's what it is, like,
Damn, that's
then
so
count me
true.
out. Like, like, but I think like that's like, I do think like that's what a lot of people, dude, I definitely did not see. I guess I guess I feel like confident to say that just because I feel like I had like a naive view of that at one point in my life too, of like that, like maybe, although I am a relationships guy, like even before like my current fiance, I was in a long-term relationship and stuff. So like, that's just a personality thing too. Like at the end of the day, it depends on like your personality. And I think there's a lot of people like, for example, like Joey, our buddy Joey, like I think, and I'm not going to speak too much on this situation, obviously without him here, but like, I think he's at a point right now where he's like, dude, I've been New York City, living on my own. He's like, I'm fucking ready to find a good person to be with. You know what I mean? And I think he's been on his own, and that has its own temptations to draw you away from the creative life. And I think a lot of times when you're on your own,
Which
maybe
is
you're
just
more
like addiction.
or loneliness, right? And then like,
That's
how
what
do you
I
deal
would
with
relate
loneliness?
to him so much on every time.
Yeah.
He called me one time and started coughing. I'm like, oh, coughing. from the weed. He's like, yeah. And then we just got into like weed addiction and just right off the bat.
Exactly. Like I know crazy stories. He's told me like some of his people he's around. Like, and again, it's because it's like, and he's told me like, I don't have those people I really can truly trust or lean on out there. Like because there's so many people who are either. I also love New York City, so it's not an indictment of New York City or anything like that. It's just like he's like, there's a hard
city. Like a hard, like it's like people, you have to be hard to be in the city.
Yeah, and
you have to be self motivated to be. in the city.
For sure, and you have to like think that's what I want for sure. Is like to be like, but I mean, he certainly run into his own versions of complacency. Like he's told me like it's easy just to be like, all right, like done my job, let's go to the bar right up the street and like do that every single night, and it's like. You might be like at the bar, like intending to write about it someday or something, but it's like at the end of the day, you're doing the same thing 25 million people have done over and over again.
So it's like with marriage, is the temptation of complacency of just doing the family and conventional lifestyle. And then with the single lifestyle, there's the temptation of just becoming an addict and like not really like channeling.
And that's even, and I think that's even just generalizing because I think we're not going to have kids anytime. Like, so like,
yeah, for sure. And that's like, the other thing that's cool is like you're doing it real young. So like, so there's a comic that's married that I know, and he was I was like, oh, marriage, like that's, I was trying to bring that up to him, and he's like, dude, honestly, it's just like dating somebody, but that's like forever, what I mean? It's like, I still come out, I'm here doing comedy, you know what I mean? It's like, what do you mean?
Exactly. Like, it doesn't have to change. I think the people who are like, marriage like stifles them and makes them like, oh, dude, you changed, like, or people perceive it that way, or maybe they did change in a negative way, because I think change is not a bad thing. Like sometimes people change in a better way, but like, it's like, I think people who it's like, that's probably a relationship where the wife or the husband doesn't respect what the other person wants. And like, so that's where like, that's a problem, because like, then like, that's not like, you probably shouldn't be married to that person. You know what I mean? Like I know like for us, like it's very much about setting intentional time for ourselves too, of just like,
well, you said
go work on your
like
book.
Novel, right?
Yeah, go work on your book. And what she does without me saying, go work on your book. Like, obviously, like,
go work on your
she's self-motivated. And she's even said to me at times, like, work on your own projects. And I've been trying to, be better at that, too, because it's easy. Like, I'm going to fucking play my video game, or I'm going to come home and, like, veg out and, like, do something else, which is fine some days. Like, that's the thing. For sure. But it's like anything, too much of anything is a problem, right? Or if you're just, like, there's days where she always talks to me, like, she's like, I'm ashamed because, like, her goal is to write every single day for at least an hour a day. Sure. And it's like, but it's like, she's like, I just couldn't do it today. I'm like, that's fine. Like, but she like is all stressed about it. I'm like, well, what's better? Like, you're sitting there staring at, I was like, that's its own toxic. Like, to sit there and be like, all right, I have to write, and then you just write shit because you're totally uninspired. You know what I mean? It's like, now some people, that's where you get a different philosophy. It's like, just work no matter what, even if you feel like shit. Like, do something, even if it's shit. You clean up in the morning.
Thing. Yeah, but it's like, I think the thing for me that helped me, the way that I was thinking about it is kind of like with addiction. Like, there was a point where I was able to access some like Adderall, right? And so like I went to a concert one time and I had like given it up. Yeah. And like at the concert, I was like, damn, I wish I had some Adderall to enjoy this concert a little bit more. But if I was on Adderall at that concert, I would have been like, damn, I'm on Adderall right now.
You know what I mean? It's
like,
So
it's just like pick a decision and then stick with it.
Yeah.
And like don't regret it. You know what I mean?
That's hard, dude. That's such a good point. Because you're always like.
So it's like, if you're going to not write today, it's like, I understand that you had this thing that you're trying to do. But if you're not going to write today, then don't. You chose not to write today. You know what I mean? So it's like, then don't be,
it's like, make your yes a yes, or so to speak, like make your decision a decision.
Harder said than done, or done than said. Harder done than said.
Yeah. Easier said than done. Yeah. Like, wait
a minute. This espresso martini. Bro.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to grab a Miller Lite real quick. I'm sorry, dude. I know this hat. I have to take this off. I'm so hot. No. Now I have like flat, like greased hair.
Yeah.
I feel like it's such a push and pull between like the idea of like being disciplined, which I actually think is something that our culture and people our age are fucking pathetic at, is being disciplined, like including myself in a lot of ways. Like, I think we have a culture that's like, do what you want, like, and they see that as freedom, and I'm like, but aren't you just a slave to your desires if you always are doing what you want to be doing? Like, that's a different type of slavery to me. Like, that's a different type of like, I think setting a plan and sticking to it, even on the bad days, is actually a very honorable thing.
But here's the thing. I've had this conversation before with my sister, especially, because I thought that as well. I thought the same thing, where it's like people are just so laissez-faire about everything, and it's like, in a sense, that can be healthy to like not, like to make a decision, stick to it, right? But she was like, oh, that's interesting, because like she was like, the way I see society and the way she views it is that everybody's on this productive kick, and you're supposed to be as productive as possible.
That's true too.
And as like, you know, like pushing and disciplined and that sort of thing. You know what I mean?
I think both are true, to be honest. Like,
and it's a terrible, like, contradictory reality that we're living in.
Yes. Unfortunately, yeah, nothing is as black and white as it is, as hopefully it would seem, or like whatever. I don't know if that's good. It's probably a good thing that nothing's black and white. But like, no, I mean, I actually agree with both his points, because on one hand, I think there's a culture of like the tech bro, like, hey bro, like rise and grind, like, but how many people do you actually know? Like, I mean, I know those people are out there and they seem to enjoy that, like 5 a.m. workout, fucking, you know, like smoothie, which again, I'm making fun of that, but if you make, I'm not even trying to make fun of it.
But we're just, you know, we're stereotyping for the
But there are people who do that, like who are like, but then there's, I think in a way I respect that better. I think I do wonder, like, at the end of the day, like, do you have health? Are you enjoying life? Or are you just a robot? Like, and that's, but I do think it's such a fine line, because then there's people who actually, I think, are just as robotic, who are, yeah, man, I'm just like going with the flow, which is their addictive flow, or their like whatever flow they're like on. True, yeah. And it's like, well, dude, you're obviously, to me, I look around and you're just as unhappy as the next person. Like, and so like, I do think, like, again, like I said earlier, this is a boring way to talk about it, because it's not as sexy to be like, I believe this. But like, I do think it depends on the person and the personality. So like, sure. I think for me, for example, I'm definitely more apt to just be like lazy about stuff. So like, I think what's harder for me is probably the thing you should be trying to do in a lot of ways. So like, for me, it would be like being more disciplined. And it doesn't mean like, it doesn't have to look like a rise and grind,
you know, running, working out,
yeah,
and, you know, writing.
I probably should, yeah, exactly, right, like,
gardening,
yeah. For like, I'm doing so much stuff every day, like
meditating,
right. Like, and then it's just like, are you checking boxes? Are you enjoying any of this? Are you checking boxes? Yeah, and then like, or like, I actually think a lot of like, it's like even the influencer, like the TikTok culture type stuff, like, which I don't know much about, but like I know there's people who like there's influencers on both sides of like, sure, this is my daily routine, and it makes it look so like, oh, what am I doing with my life? Like, look at this person. I'm like, you don't even fucking know if they're doing half this shit. Like, you don't know really, or like, this is what I eat in a day, and I'm like, that doesn't look like that's all you eat in a day. Like, sorry, honey, like, you know what I mean? Sorry, that's the truth. Like, you ain't getting that triple chin from nowhere, but like, or whatever, but like, or whatever, vice versa, like, you know, whatever. So it's like, but no, I don't know. I do think that's interesting, because I think. Maybe she's around. Maybe your sister. I think it depends on a lot who you're around.
Yeah, for sure.
So like, I think maybe.
Well, I like
around.
the way that you put it. It's like, if you're on the black side, then people are always saying that you need to be more white, and if you're on the white side, you need to be more black. Yeah. And maybe those aren't the best.
I think, hey, that's watch it there. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. No, but if you're on if you're surrounded by, you know, super rise and grind people, then maybe, like you said, and that's what's so hard is like. I want to believe in the schedule and I want to believe in the discipline, but when somebody follows it so strictly that they're not even allowing themselves the time of day to sit down and think, and like, I think it's really important to have like a time of day where you, even if you have to like schedule it, right? Like, make it part of the discipline, but like, okay, to this part of the day, I have 2 hours where I could either meditate, do video games, do TV, I could write. But like, do whatever I want to do, like have the freedom to pick one or the other, or none of them. You know what I mean?
I think that's honestly nail on the head. Like, something I've been trying to do more, like, is that
because
exact thing. It's intentional, unintentional time. Yeah,
intentional, unintentional.
It's time. Like, I'm going to say, I'm not even going to plan it, but all I know is I'm going to do whatever I want during these 2 hours. But once those 2 hours are up, I'm going to like go to bed or whatever I'm going to do.
Laundry,
do the shit I need to do, or other shit I need to do. Like, I think that's actually a great way to put it, because I do think like the people who are like, now I do think like that's the idea of like being type A or type B, like, right, like the generalization, like type A people are very structured, like structure. Yeah, if you're a type A person, maybe you do want every minute your day planned out. I do wonder in the long term if that's destructive in a certain way. Just like I wonder if like being just being all the time. Being like, oh, just whatever, man. Like, I'm just like you said, laissez-faire. That's a good way to put it. Like, it's like, yeah, it's just like, because I do think both of those things in a way are like restrictive in a negative sense. Like, I don't think like, I guess I said the word slavery, like something that's like you're more enslaved, because I just guess I think of a lot of people our age who are at this in their 20s who are like very much like, man, you know, like, just fucking like, you know, like, you go out, like, do whatever you're gonna do, and like, and you know, you're not that reliable about stuff, and you know, and or whatever, you're just kind of like, well, whatever, like, you know, I can do whatever I want whenever I want, and like, I think that's I just think that's like kind of an empty. I think it's leading to nowhere in some sense.
Well, you're not
and,
like looking out for the long term, basically, at that point.
and you're not, you're not looking at the long term. And I think even in the short term, you're not that fulfilled by it. Like,
That's true.
honestly,
Yeah, that's a good
Most
point.
people I know who do that are, and I'm not. By the way, I'm not sitting here as some guru who's like super, like perfectly happy. I'm not either. Like,
but
so
I wouldn't
it's
even I wouldn't even categorize those people with like type B people, because type B people to me, I consider myself a type B person, but like I'm intentionally type B. You know what I mean? So it's like that. There was like a certain moment in my life where I was like, I didn't even understand. Like I had heard type A and type B before.
Yeah.
And then there was a certain moment where I was like, oh, that's what that is, because type B to me was like, it's the difference between being and doing.
Yeah.
And it's like type B is just like you're content with being. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
content with like chilling and like being able to check out after a day, and like, you know, that's where meditation came in very heavy for me.
Yeah.
To like accept and not push things.
Yes.
But I think and this is kind of goes to what you were saying about with your fiance, is like she wants to write every day. But the way that I see it is that like, I think there are even points of the year, or even, so I just talked to somebody who has different years for different things too. So it's like, instead of doing it day by day, it's like, okay, I had like a whole month where I was just type B. It was like after shooting the film, I thought that was like so do, and like type
Very
A,
much.
very much like get out and do it. And then I had a month, and again, I should have committed more to it, because then I felt a little guilty about doing nothing.
Yeah.
But I had like a whole month of just kind of relaxing and like chilling out, decompressing, preparing for the holidays, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I felt guilty about that. But it's like, in reality, is like, okay, so say even, again, it's hard to put it in perspective when you see it. For me, at least, you know, I'm friends with a bunch of stand-up comedians, and they're going out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, Thursday night doing, you know, you see they're like, oh, they're working every night.
Yeah.
And I'm taking a whole month and a half off just to like fuck around. But that doesn't mean that January, like I've already planned for January to just really get into this editing thing, and really like, you know, start running in the morning and journaling every day and reading, and, you know, get into that type A mindset.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like balancing, but
It
it's
is.
like, I felt guilty about it. You know what I mean? It's like, why do I feel guilty about that?
I think that's just being a human, man. Like,
Yeah,
honestly, like
true.
because I feel the same way. Like every time, but I think the more you work on being intentionally unintentional, like as
Then it becomes intentional.
That's you have to be careful about that too, right? It's a very like Wattsian type conversation here, but like, the idea like you can't bite your own teeth, or like you can't like you
can't look at your own eye.
Yeah, like you can't like this. Like you can't be. I remember he said something once, like speaking like Alan Watts. That's very on topic. You can't be intentionally sporadic. Like that's an oxymoron, because being sporadic is unplanned. So you can't intentionally be sporadic.
Right.
Like, so it's like the idea, because even if you like, I'm going to set the intention to be more sporadic. I think that's a little more vague. Like I'm going to, in the broad sense, set the intention of being more like, say, go with the flow. That's different. But like, it's just like a good point, because you're like, yeah, like if I'm intentionally being more random, that's
what am I going to do now?
Yeah. It's like, you're not being random then, because you're actually like planning being random.
You're
like
being
it's
annoying.
like, you're being annoying. No, but like it's I think it's just related to what we're saying. Like, but dude, like I just tell you like something about like just talking about relationships and, you know, being like living with somebody and all that stuff. So something that like we just talked about, and it was like one of the more, I feel like, mature like just like it was something that's just, it's so obvious after you talk about it, but like it's like something that takes a while to come to in some respects, and it's unique to our situation. But we were saying like how a lot of nights, like after work, you know, we're both home, and maybe she makes dinner or something, and that's because she likes making dinner. I swear I don't make her I'm like, make me dinner, bitch. But she, you know, whatever, she makes dinner or something, and you know, and then we're just kind of like, we don't have much of a plan, which on its surface, that's fine. What's like the big deal about that? You know, there's nothing wrong with that, and truly, like, it's fine. Maybe we hang out, and maybe we're halfway present with each other. So like, you know, I think we're better than some people. Like, we don't like love being on our phones around each other. We try to just be like in the room with each other and stuff.
Right.
But like, maybe we're just putzing around, and like I'm like, you know, like laying like this on the couch, and like halfway paying attention, putting my phone down, halfway, and it's like at the end we feel so unsatisfied. Like you do that for a month and a half, you're like, why don't we feel close anymore? Like, what's going on? Well, because we're not really taking time for ourselves, but we're also not really taking time for each other.
Right.
Like, so it's like, so we had this, and it sounds like such a duh thing. Like, that's why it's silly, like talking about, but it's like, we had this conversation literally just like a couple of days ago of like, let's be intentional about this. Like,
Yeah.
let's say, as boring as this sounds, because I think for a while I looked at it as a failure. Like, if I was like, well, if we set like Tuesdays, Thursdays as alone time, that seems weird and forced, which on the surface it can sound like that. But we're going to try it out and see how we like it. Like, hey, maybe on Tuesdays we have like we know as a couple, like our Tuesday or Thursdays, like, don't tell me what you just, if I get home and you're not here and you're out till 8 o'clock, like, I know you're doing something. Like, not that we have to be, not that we're usually up each other's asses, but I'd be like, hey, where are you? Whatever. Like, just like knowing, being intentional about that unintentional, like being intentional about that, either that selfish time, or that time where like we're hanging out tonight, we're going to see a movie, and like that's what we're doing. Or like the other night we went out to dinner, just left our phones at home, simple ass thing, and just ended up being out for like 4 hours, like just with each other, like, and that is to me where I'm happiest in life. It's like, oh, that was so simple. Like, why was that so complicated? But I don't want to lose sight of something you said about feeling guilty, because I very much think like that's something that's hard to navigate, because I get that way a lot. Like, where I'm just like, if I have a day where I'm like, it's a rainy day, let me be relaxed, I like have this underlying guilt. And I think that's maybe something just in our like survival instincts of like, no, I need to be productive, or like, no, I need to, some people don't fucking have that voice at all, but like I do, and you do, like, where it's like, even if you said, I'm going to relax for a month, it gets hard sometimes, but that's where I think you need to remind yourself, like, no, dude.
Like a whole month, dude? Come on.
Especially for like something like a month is a long time.
Yeah, a month is a long time.
Or maybe, and then you're like, maybe get to week 3 and you're like, I think I'm rested enough, I'm going to get back out there. But like for you, like seeing other comics and stuff, I imagine that's very much like you start feeling like, do I even care about this? Or like, am I not, I don't know. I'm not putting stuff in your head.
No,
but
it's
like,
exactly this.
Which I think
exactly
are fair questions to ask yourself. But it's such a tough like line to toe, I feel like, with like, you just don't, it's constantly like being neurotic. Like, that's a problem with being too neurotic too, is like, am I really doing the right thing? And something I've had to realize to go to for my own anxiety issues and stuff is like, I just need to say, I don't know sometimes. Like truly, like, I don't know. Like, and be okay with not knowing. Wow. That's a very hard thing, is like being okay with not knowing. Because I feel like it's in us to like, it took me a long time in like fucking therapy to get to that. Really, like basically, like you need to be okay with being uncertainty. Like be comfortable with uncertainty, which is a very hard thing to do, because I think it's in our DNA to be like,
dude, you're making me think. I just had a conversation with somebody. I was like, follow your gut. Like in the moment, if you need to make a decision, you usually know what's like right or wrong. Like Alan Watts, or no, actually, I think it was who's the Christian one? What's his name? Anyways, one of the guys, like philosophy guys, has a thing where it's like, when it's like a 50-50 thing, like a decision you're trying to make, and you flip a coin, as soon as you throw it up in the air, you know exactly what you want to do. You know what I mean? So it's like in the moment, there's usually, it's like you can pre-plan for whatever decision as much as possible, but you know what you want to do. And that to me feels right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was kind of telling somebody that, but I think you're also, there is a point where it's like, sometimes it really is 50-50, and it's like, just, you're okay if you make a decision, just like make that decision, not feel guilty about it, and roll with it.
Yeah, dude. And even if you, I would say,
I don't know,
and say even the added part is, if you do end up feeling guilty, be like, that's all right, I guess.
I didn't know.
I didn't. I mean, like, I'm not sure. Like, I'm just. It's like, it's so easy to fall into like being like, I think that's like the weird, like, maybe it's like a Western thing, like to be like, and I don't know, like meaning like, like you're like kind of the Western mind of being more like productivity based, and like the sort of like the idea that there is a right answer to things. It's a scientific worldview, right? Like the idea that like, which is true, and like, oh yeah, like if you do this, you get that. I'm not saying like that's not true in like science. I'm like, oh, you do A, you get B. Right. But being a human being is not.
It's not that at all.
A fucking atom. Like, even though we're made up about it, it's so much more complex, and it's so unpredictable. And I think like it's so easy to like subtly slip into that like the same way you would look at like something something unhuman, not inhuman, like meaning like cruel, but like something that's like non-human, like, oh, the sun reacts this way to, or like, this like material react, like almost more a science logical experiment. Yeah, I'm like, humans aren't a science experiment. And like, like we being a human is very confusing. It's very like, it's like some days seem like I understand everything, and then the next day you're like, what? I don't understand anything. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And you got to be careful about being too neurotic and all that too. Like, I feel like that's something I fall into, is like overthinking is a big problem too. Like, going with your gut sometimes is so important.
Well, so this is what I wanted to bring up before about like how you were talking about how there's some people that just are like go with the flow and just like kind of just do the thing, and you feel like they're almost like a victim to that, like in a way, is what I got from that at least. Well, I'm reading Alan Watts, speaking of him, his autobiography right now, and that was like one of the big debates that he had within like he met like a swami,
Swami, I think
swami
Swami.
or whatever it is. And so there's like a leader, he has students and everything, and he's like, you know, a guru of some sort or whatever. And they're having this like whole debate. It starts with the idea of like sex. It's like, is sex like a morally, you know, bad thing to do, basically? And Alan Watts' point is that sex it can be transactional, but even in a transactional sense, you're doing it because it's fun. You know what I mean? And you're doing it because you're going for a life experience. And it can also be more than that. And it can be like an emotional thing. And the guru is saying, you know, it should be only a purely emotional thing and you should save it and be celibate into a certain point. But what they kind of broke that up, it started like here, it kind of broke into okay, are you doing it knowingly or are you doing it because you're thinking about doing it knowingly? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It like breaks into this larger argument of basically what it comes down to is the guru is saying that like, because I'm learned in theology and philosophy, I am more whole or more at peace than those who are not. And if the goal of philosophy and the spirituality is to live and not think, that's what Alan Watts is basically his whole thing is to just live. And it's like dancing. How do you describe dancing? You don't. You just do it, right?
Yeah.
That's his whole thing. And so the guru is like, these people that don't have the vocab that I have are not as whole because they're not as, and Alan Watts is like, no, man. And he's like, listen, and they got into this whole argument, and the guy's like, listen, I don't suffer, like the guru is like, I don't suffer a pinch, you know what I mean? And these people are suffering because they're not thinking about it. And Alan Watts is like, I took everything in my control not to reach over and fucking and pinch him. It's like, you don't feel a pinch? All right.
Yeah. That's so Watts too, just to be like, all right, let's bring this back to fucking the most simple.
To reality.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So many people get lost in these like these huge ideas, and you can think you're so smart, and you can get lost in, you know, being in this type A, type B. You get lost in the sauce when in reality it's like,
there is like a beautiful simplicity, like the guy, someone like Watts, but I would argue ironically, like he is very into philosophy and religion himself, like, and he would say that that he is like, but I think he realized through a lot of that like, I think there's a difference between being into those things and like almost living an abstracted life versus being into them and taking the pragmatic values out of them, you know, like
that's a great way to put it, for sure.
Like, okay, how does this help me live? Not how does this help me, like, well, and how does it help me think, of course, is how you live. It's part of how you live is how you think. But like, I do agree, like, yeah, there's very much like you can get so
lost in the sauce.
Dude, there's a funny other story about Watts who he's talking to oh my god, what was his fucking name? He was one of the Harvard professors, not Timothy Leary, but he was one of the other Harvard professors during the 50s and 60s that like were in the big acid kick and ended up getting fired. He became a guru. He got like renamed, you know, as his tradition. I think he was Hindu. Like he became, but you know, you get like your guru name, like you lose your given name, like your birth name, and I forget his fucking name right now, man. It's
dude, I forgot the other guy's name. He's like a huge guy too.
Yeah,
like, this is a thing right now. It's fine.
But basically, what I'm saying is, Watts was talking to this guy, and and he was talking, you know, and I think they were drinking together and just hanging out, and the other guy, not Watts, was like talking about emptiness, which is a concept in Buddhism, which is like, yeah, I'm not gonna die, but basically it's a thing like that. All things are related, but like nothing exists on its own. All things, it's not empty, like nothing is there, but like the idea that no thing in and of itself exists. Everything is in a relation. Yeah, right. No one thing. So like one thing is empty of itself. Like everything. Is
and
like
emptiness isn't empty. Emptiness is present.
Full, yeah. Emptiness. It's like kind of a bad translation in some ways because it's like our view of that word. But and he goes, you know, he called him Dick because his name was Richard. Yeah. Like, but just like a very Watts way to like cut under like the guru name. He's like, you know, Dick, you're too obsessed with emptiness. You know, like, and basically it's that. And the guy telling that story was Watson. Tell that story. It was him who told that story. The guy, I forget his name right now. But he was like, I loved that because Watts got the pragmatic side. Was like, I was getting too lost in like thinking about emptiness rather than living in emptiness. And that's like such. But then it's like funny because it's something I've run into like actually with my own experiences is like, then you can be trying too hard not to try. And that's like its own weird paradox, you know?
Absolutely. Like, that's when I fell into trying too hard to be type B. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trying to be meditative and disciplined in type B is such a weird thing to do. You know what I mean?
It's so paradoxical because
It's
like
so
you're like try really hard not to try. You're like
so
squeeze really hard
in that
not to
same
squeeze.
sense,
Yeah.
it's like we're talking about those people that have these disciplined things like, oh, you set time out to meditate every day.
Yes.
What are you meditating on, bro? Like
Yeah.
you're sitting there just being like, yeah, I'm sitting here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here not thinking about anything. No,
Yeah.
you fucking get the fuck
Or
out
watching my thought. I do think like again, I just think it depends because I'm like I think in one sense like if you have a deep like meditation routine where you're just like I'm gonna take these 10 minutes to just watch my thoughts.
It can be
just
good.
watch thing. It can be good. But again, I think a lot of people do it to say they do it or just to
They film themselves meditating.
yeah. Watch this.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
Look how calm I look on the outside. On the inside, I'm freaking out. Yeah, it's like no, but I think I don't know. I think it's so boring to say this, but like in a lot of ways, the answer is always the middle path. Like it's always like
Right,
it's
a balance.
always yeah, and it's such like a kind of
yin and yang.
unsexy answer, you know?
It is, man, but
it's like
that's it.
it's cliche, dude. I used to talk about this all the time with my buddy in college. Like cliches are cliche for a reason. Like
Right.
love is the truth, or like love is everything, or like or whatever. Like the middle way, like balance is important. Like all these cliches, like you go full circle where at first you're like, yeah, that's true, and then you're like, bro, I'm smarter than that. That's fucking stupid. Like yeah, maybe it's true, but like that's so simple. And then I feel like the full circle thing is like you're like, no, it's just true. Like you know what I mean? You're
Dude,
like,
I talked about this
yeah.
on the last. Is that meme where it's like the bell curve, and like
Yeah.
on the one end it's like an idiot, and on the
Yes.
other end it's like the smart guy, and then in the middle there's like an angry like nerd just fucking getting pissed about everything.
You're like, and but the idiot and like the Sith Lord are like the
Just,
same
like,
level,
both
like
calm, level, like
Dude,
leveled out.
that's so, dude. I can literally only talk my own experience and without diving into like another hour-long podcast about fucking mental health problems I've had. But like, dude, I have caused myself a lot of suffering and pain in this life by getting way too deep in the weeds with certain things. Knowing my personality type is like, again, I like I said, the biggest breakthrough for me ever was like. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's super easy now, but like was to basically be okay with uncertainty and be like, I don't know if what I'm doing is the right decision. I don't even know if a right decision exists, but I need to just be okay with that. And what to me nowadays, what okay with that looks like is like just doing it anyways. And like, even if I have my doubts, like just doing it anyways.
Committed
or like
to the bit.
Commit to the bit. Or like even like I think a lot about like I've been even like I'm not even like I wouldn't say like I'm any sort of religion, but I've been even marking out time just to do like prayer. And I don't know what I'm praying to, but it's like a commitment thing. It's like to me it's like
The tradition of it.
it's a ritual, and it's also like I'm taking intentional time to just reflect on like what I'm grateful for, or maybe what I'm nervous about, or maybe what I pray to something I don't know, like maybe exists, maybe doesn't, like, you know. And I think like again I'm just trying to be more okay with that sort of that because when I look back at being a child, like in a lot of ways, like where I was most like pure, like or most like free feeling, I kind of was living in the most mysterious realm. Like I didn't know a lot of stuff, but I was really okay with it then. I was very curious about it.
Because you didn't even really know what to know.
Yeah, you didn't know what to question. You didn't know what to doubt.
Yeah.
You know, you just like vibe.
You just like accepted it, and you knew there was more to learn, and you were excited about what was coming.
And it felt infinite. You were just like,
Infinite,
oh, dude, I can do whatever I want. It doesn't even matter which path I pick because they're all good. You know, like everything's like exciting, you know?
Right,
And that's when you become an adult, I feel like half the battle is becoming a child again. Like you're like trying to get back to like.
Did have I ever told you about when I like first got into meditation? It was like a year later. I got into like guided meditation at first, and then I just started my own journey with reading Alan Watts and meditating on what he says like to meditate on, and it actually really helped me. But there was one point where it was like honestly one of the most depressed I've ever been in my life. But you know, meditating every day and being like, okay, this is like coming to terms with how cyclical your life is, or like how boring and complacent my life felt in college. It was like I do this every day. It was like, okay, I have to meditate on this is the first time it'll ever be, you know, December 30th, 2023 in this room at this time. You know what I mean? It'll never happen again. But there was a point where literally no drugs or anything. Not to say that, you know, like I haven't done drugs or whatever, and maybe that did have some sort of effect. But in the moment, it was just like the middle of the day. I meditated, and I felt this like just pulsation from the middle of my brain, just like while meditating, just like shoot out. And I like opened my eyes, and dude, like I looked at my hands for the first time that I hadn't seen them since I was a kid. Because when you're a kid, like I remember just like it reminded me of when I would go to my brothers and sisters' soccer game, and everybody's paying attention to the game. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I'm playing with the grass, and like looking at my hands. You know what I mean? And it was like, dude, I haven't seen my hand like this since I was like 6 years old.
Yes,
you know what I
dude.
mean? And dude, I just went like, it lasted like, it was like 3 days probably, where
Yeah.
like I would walk to class. I walked to class the next morning. I'm like, look at all these fucking rocks on the way down. I haven't even
Everything's
seen these cool
new.
rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's like you said, it's like the hardest part of adulthood is getting back to a childlike perspective.
Yes.
Because the childlike perspective is the most innocent and free lifestyle you can live.
And in a way, it's the most pure, like, because it's almost the most true, because you like, you don't really understand why we're here. You don't really, like, at the end of the day, dude, it's confusing. Like, but it doesn't have to be a negative confusing. It can just be like
Exciting.
an exciting mystery. Like, I don't even understand how I'm talking. Like, I mean, really, in the truest sense, I don't know how these words are coming out. Like, I just do it. Like, anything you do, like, you don't even. I trip myself about if I thought about it too much, which I have before. Like, how am I talking? Like, how am I forming a sentence? I don't know how I even get to the end of a sentence, but I do. Like, it's like I just don't think about it. So what I mean, that seems like a trivial example, but just the idea that like you just take so much for granted, which is practical, and you survive off of that. You don't want to be thinking about that, but it's not so much thinking that you do when you're a child. It's not even just thinking. It's about just noticing the sort of newness of experience.
Noticing is a great word, I think.
Yeah, it's like, it's weird. It's not quite. It's not thought. It's just like observation, and it's almost just, it's awareness, and it's like and I've had this on like mushroom trips before, on good ones, where I'm like, I truly feel like I could be anybody in the world. I'm just like raw experience. I have no identity, and in the best way, no identity, because you can have scary experiences of feeling like you don't exist too. But like, it was a good experience of not, like, it's not that I didn't exist. It's just that I didn't exist as this identity.
You're almost like viewing everything from an objective perspective. Like you haven't lived the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
The narrative that you tell yourself every day about who you are, what you like, which, not saying those things aren't true. Like, obviously we have preferences.
Sure.
But in some sense,
but again,
we hold ourselves hostage. We hold ourselves hostage with, like, I wouldn't want to be on a mushroom trip 24/7, but like, it's like the idea of like, it's an important perspective to remember, because it's like, or like, even I've definitely got that through meditation too. I've had it to where I'm just like, dude, it's like a physical, like, I'll be like, whoosh, and it's like all of a sudden, like, everything's fucking reborn for me. Like, it's like I'm seeing the world for the first time, or like I'm hearing my own heartbeat for the first time, and it's wild, and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, it can be destabilizing too certain times, like, but when you have a good experience with it, like, it's very much like, oh, this is possible, and like, this is not only possible, but this is almost like, it's something about it feels closer to the truth than like our everyday labels. Like, something about it feels more.
That's a great way to put it. Absolutely. Because like, it feels more important. Like, you value it for some reason, whatever that thing is. And if it's the truth, then that means it's good. But that's what we want it to be.
Right. Well, whether it's good or not, it is what it is, and it's like,
and it feels good,
and it does feel good, because I think it's like closer to our soul, whatever you want to call it. Like, you can label it soul, or you're like your spiritual sin, or your psyche, whatever you want to call it, like whatever it is, like, and whatever that looks like, even like materially speaking, like if you want to like make it really cold and stupid and scientific, not stupid, but like sometimes I get annoyed about like love is just like oxytocin releasing your brain. Like, yeah, bro, but that's not the experience of love. Like that like, we can sit here all day and I'd be like, yeah, but we can't live like that anyway. But like, because I was that guy at one point. But no, I think it's like, it's one of those things, and it's like, unless you've had that experience, you sound so woo woo to other people. And it's like, dude, it's nothing like woo woo. It's not like it's not you're like, it sounds
not fantastical.
Like, it's
real.
so simple, dude.
Yeah,
it's so simple and it's so direct.
Yeah.
Like, that's the word I would use. Like, it's so direct. It's so just like what's always been here. You're like, how have I not seen this? Yeah. Like, that's how it feels. You're always just like, what was so hard about this? You know,
and it's kind of like that thing you were talking about before. Where it's there's always some realization that seems so simple, and until
Cliche.
you actually experience it, it's like you have to have that emotional realization that
so
like
different.
really like brings you to like this girl that I did the short film with. She was just like. She was getting into like super into what's it called, like interior design, basically.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm realizing that like like the way and the organization and everything that how I set my house up affects my mood.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you mean your environment affects your mood? You know what I mean? You can like break it down to something as simple as that. It's like obviously your environment affects your mood.
Yeah.
But until you actually like have a personal experience that it hits you and is like real,
Yeah.
then it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
It doesn't, dude. I've always said this. It's such a truth, man. Like I not always said, like I've always said it, but like I remember thinking that, and I lost sight of that for a while. It's like you can understand anything you want intellectually. You can sit there and read about it all day. You can sit there and think about it all day. But until, like you're saying, like until you have that direct emotional experience of that thing, it doesn't really feel like you understand. You might understand it up here, but you don't understand it here. Like speaking, like so to speak. Like it's like you understand your mind, you don't understand your heart. And like understanding your heart, all that means to me is understanding emotionally, like understanding like in the sense of like it's visceral. Right. You're like, oh, like that's so funny too. Yeah, yeah, I'm like, damn, I feel shitty today. Oh, it's fucking raining outside, and like I didn't sleep well. Like, wow, that's wild. Like, you know, but it's like, but it's so simple, but it's right there. But oftentimes, again, complacency. Full circle. Like you just go like even like here, like I was just thinking as you said that, like maybe I should rearrange my bedroom. But like it's true, like you just get like, well, this is how my house looks. Like this is what I do. You don't even think about it. It's not even a thought. It's not even a thought. It's like it's
walk
like
in and you're like, here we are.
Yep, and you're like, no wonder it seems so fucking bland because like you're literally just settling into like the same thing. And that's
where I was at when I was telling you. I walked back into the office after Spain, and I was right there. And this is where the whole thing was. And I got angry as I was journaling. It was like, this is all it is. This is what it is. And I was like, wait, I can change this. I can use anger and spite to get myself out of this fucking spot. Yeah. And so now that's what my goal is to do.
Well, dude, also like, I mean, definitely like go back. We're talking about 9 to 5s. Like if you're not happy where you're at, like definitely keep going. Like obviously, like, you know, keep going. And like, I don't think there's any one, again, like to say like, there's no one reason. There's no one path that's best for everybody. Like, you know, like it's again, like I couldn't have planned out my life where I'm at now. Like even if I tried, like it's so different than I don't even know what I meant. Like honestly, at different points, I imagine different things, you know, like and like, you know, and it's just depending on the people you're around, your outlook on the world changes, the outlook on yourself changes, like the outlook on like whether you're pessimistic towards humanity or optimistic towards humanity changes. Like I go through so many waves of that even like, but like, no, man, it's
just important to remember to not stay in one of those for too long to the point where it becomes unhealthy.
Exactly. And that's where I think something like marriage can be dangerous in just an abstract sense because it's like, it's so easy to like
get complacent
because you're just like, well, this is what we do. Like, you know, or if you have a kid, you're like, well, that's why, dude, people don't understand. But like, it's so, they always say like in family, I've heard it said like, you have to put your wife and husband, or vice versa, your husband before your kid. Because even though that seems like, what do you mean before your kid? What do you mean put your wife before your kid? What they're meaning is like, that kid is going to have a better life if you put your partner first, because then you respect each other and your love stays alive. Yeah. You can lose your identity into your kid. And then what happens when they leave? You and your partner have no connection anymore because all that time you were so worried about like necessary things like, get him to this, get him to that, get him to practice, get him to school, get him to this. And it's like, but then you get so lost in the sauce. It's like that you just don't even take time for each other. Right. And like, that's where like, I'm not even had a kid yet, but like, I mean, Joey's cousin Max, for example, I was talking like he just had a baby and it was so interesting seeing like, it's like, wow, Max is a dad. And over there and I'm like seeing this little baby and like, but we still hung out and had a great night. So it's like, you can still do those things, but he had to go a couple times and, you know, deal with some baby shit, like, you know, change that, whatever. But it's like, and I don't know if right now I want to, like, again, I'm still like selfish enough right now to be like, I'm not quite ready to give my life away to another being. I think that could be a very fulfilling experience too, if you're ready for it. But sorry, I'm all over the place. But yeah, basically, I just think there's like so many different times for different things. And as long as you're being honest with yourself, which is hard, but like as long as you're trying to be like, how do I feel about this right now? Am I happy right now? Is there something I could change to make myself happier? Maybe there is, but I don't know what that thing is. If you're asking those questions, that's why I think journaling is like really good.
Yeah, journaling, like, and again, that meditation, watching the thoughts and questioning, not even questioning them, but just observing them from a point where you can understand that you're in a certain place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, well, I keep having this thought. Oh, it's interesting. Maybe I should tend to that. You know, like, oh, I keep thinking about this thing. Like, now that I pay attention, like, maybe I'm ignoring something. You know? Like,
exactly. And it just makes it easier to understand that things need to change if they need to. You know
so
I think we came full circle with, you know, understanding again is like, in the simplest terms, commit to the bit. You know what I mean? Commit to the bit of being happy day to day. And not happy day to day, or allow, you know, whatever place you're in, just make sure that you don't I don't know, that you are following what you feel is correct.
Yeah, because yes, exactly. And I think even something I've had to allow myself to do more is like, if you're sad, man, just allow yourself to be sad. Like,
Just
allow yourself,
to be sad.
because sometimes I'm so apt to fight it. Like, no, what's wrong? Like, it's not good to be this way.
And you need to understand that you're allowed to be sad, and there is a point to move on. But
yes,
that's part of it. Is being sad and grieving and processing, and then moving on.
You can't move on unless you allow yourself to be sad.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, just, again, committing to the bit, accepting the reality that you're presented, also questioning. Accepting and questioning at the same time. Yeah. That's the whole thing.
Yep.
We got it, dude. We figured it out. We figured out life.
Bro, we got it, bro.
All right,
cut.
Dude. I think this is good. Logan, thank you so much for coming out. You don't do anything to shout out, so I'm not going to shout you out, but...
Thanks for you coming out. You came out to my place, technically.
I have to pee so bad.
Yeah, me too, dude. All right.
All right, cut.